Welcome to NARAL's The Morning After. Each Thursday, our podcast brings you the latest on reproductive health care, progressive politics, and the fight to keep abortion safe and legal. NARAL's The Morning After is a production of NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at ProChoiceOH. Enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Gabe.
I'm Jaime.
Okay, so Advocacy Day is a wrap. I thought it was a pretty good day.
Yeah, it was. It was a really good day. We had about 100 people show up, maybe a couple more, and got to hear from some really great legislators and got to learn a lot, hang out with fabulous people, and talk to legislators about how bad all these abortion bans are and how we should stop attacking access to abortion.
Right. So this event, for people who aren't familiar with it, is the Freedom of Choice Ohio Coalition Advocacy Day.
Yes.
Freedom of Choice Ohio, or FOCO, as we refer to it quite often. That's NARAL, Planned Parenthood. We need the list.
Look, I did.
ACLU Ohio, New Voices Cleveland, Ohio Now, the AAUW, League of Women Voters, Preterm Women Have Options Ohio, Ohio Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice, Progress Ohio, and NCJW. And so all of these organizations who are committed to protecting reproductive rights, protecting women's health care, and protecting access to abortion care in the state of Ohio work together through the FOCO coalition. And one of our big events every year is this Advocacy Day. So this year we met at the Trinity Episcopal Church, which is across the street from the Statehouse, a great location. And Stephanie Howse kicked us off. Representative Howse is the ranking member on the so-called abortion committee, and she did a great job.
I couldn't tell you because I wasn't there.
You weren't there.
I was in committee talking about the thing we're going to talk about next.
Okay, well, let me tell
sure
you,
she was fabulous.
She did a great job. She came in and she's been really bringing a good point of view of a legislator who's looking to solve real problems that Ohioans are facing. We've got a serious issue with our schools in the state of Ohio, and across the board access to health care and infant mortality and income inequality. And, there's many, many issues that she's looking to fight on. And so she joined the Committee on Family Advancement, which has become the Abortion Committee. That's not what the intent was claimed to be.
No, it was supposed to be helping people out of poverty and looking at new ways to do that. Because she's from Cleveland, and there are some of the wards in her district really, really, really need help and really need real solutions, not this bullshit all over the place. Community and Family Advancement didn't hear any of our bills this week, but they heard another bill to extra special protect pastors from having to perform marriages they don't want to do, which they already have the right to do. And welfare testing, drug testing, welfare recipients.
Okay,
and
tangent on that tangent. So nobody wants to get married by a pastor that hates them.
Yes.
So, okay, we're protecting them.
But they're already also protected. The whole First Amendment already protects them.
But it's just a thing that doesn't happen. You would know bride and groom, groom and groom, bride and bride, is ever going to pick a wedding officiant that hates them.
Because they can say whatever they want the whole ceremony. Like, why the hell would you give them a microphone?
So, pastors don't need protection against this. They're not going to get picked to perform those weddings.
But Christians are being persecuted, Gabe.
Okay, so that's the sort of crap that this Community and Family Advancement Committee has been choosing to hear. Those are the bills that they've been asking for.
Yes.
They've been assigned. And Representative Howse and her colleagues on the committee, who are other rock stars on there? We've got Janine Boyd, Nikki Antonio.
Yeah. No, Nikki's on health.
Okay.
Janine Boyd, Michelle Lepore Hagan is the one that cross sits there. Kevin Boyce. Yeah, I think Howse. I think those are the other ones. So then the other Dem on that stupid committee is Patman, who actually is not a friend.
Right.
He's the one who actually sponsored the Planned Parenthood defunding bill. So we don't count him on this.
Not a coincidence that he's assigned to that committee.
Yeah.
So she's been she's been looking to really improve the lives of average Ohioans, and then forced, as have the rest of us, to sit through all of these attacks on abortion rights, attacks on Planned Parenthood funding. It's just completely asinine. So she gave the keynote address in the morning. Really brought it, got everybody fired up. Meanwhile, you were over in a committee.
Yes, because God forbid they
trying
take
to
a day
fight
off.
against some of those actual restrictions on abortion providers.
Yeah, so they heard hearings on 2 different bills to restrict how fetal tissue is disposed of, because one bill's not enough. And so there were big differences between the 2 of them at the beginning. They've both been amended now. We have substitute bills for both of them. So they're a lot closer, but they still conflict with each other. But they still are hearing them at the same time. They voted both of them out of committee after testimony. And they keep talking about how they're complementary with each other, which is completely and totally like, have you read your own bills?
Their conflicts are complementary.
Yes, which just makes actually what happened in committee even more humorous and ridiculous all at the same time.
Humorous.
Because what we learned in health committee this week, so this is the only bill that's gone through the House that hasn't gone through abortion committee. For some reason, these bills got assigned to health committee, which everybody on health committee was like, but I thought I got out of these bills. But no. So poor Rep. Michelle Lepore Hagan actually cross-sits on both of them. So she didn't get out of anything. But so when I testified on House Bill 417, I talked about how dangerous it was to let the director of health make all these rules and enforce all these rules, because we know
the political appointee director of health,
the former Turnpike director, Department of Health director. So I talked about all that. And so I got a 5-minute lecture from Representative Barbara Sears on how I must not understand his extensive healthcare resume, which consists of about a year of lobbying for an insurance company.
Right.
And then while he was a legislator, a part-time administrator role at a local community like city hospital in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. So he's like a part-time hospital administrator while he was a part-time legislator for a year and a half.
Right.
That's his extensive healthcare experience.
Right. When legislators get those sort of, we're going to bring you on for this, it's almost certainly, hey, we need help in the state budget later. Do you want to sit on our board?
He wasn't
the
person, creating emergency protocols for what happens when an Ebola patient comes into the hospital.
Because he has no medical training.
No, zero medical training at all whatsoever. So so I got a 5-minute lecture on his extensive healthcare resume, because she didn't like that I called out their bullshit. And then Representative Gonzalez I think she should get the walk of shame this week.
Okay.
Because so in addition to our testimony, Rabbi Zinkow testified. He's amazing. He talked about how requiring a woman of the Jewish faith to decide to bury or cremate fetal remains actually goes against their religion. If you want to talk about religious discrimination, that's what House Bill 417 does. We don't need the Pastor Protection Act. We need to fix House Bill 417.
How does it go against their religious
So in the Jewish faith, they do not believe that there's any sort of requirement to do any sort of burial or cremation for anything before 21 weeks. And in fact, that the baby is not ensouled and is not a person until it is born, because the baby in the Jewish faith, the baby breathes its first breath, and through that first breath is ensouled by God.
Okay.
So you've got a Jewish woman who's terminating at 10 weeks, where actually the Jewish faith, as his testimony said, believes it's just a fluid of potential life.
Everything's ringing. Sorry. Keep going.
So so you've got a woman of Jewish faith whose beliefs are that this isn't alive and there's no reason to bury or cremate, being forced to only choose between burial or cremation, and therefore going against her religious belief that this isn't a human being and should not be treated this way.
Right.
In fact, there are no Jewish rituals. Even if a woman miscarried in the Jewish faith, there are no, and she wanted to bury or cremate.
Right.
the remains from the miscarriage, there is no Jewish ceremony or rabbi present or any of that stuff for that, because there just isn't a protocol for that in the Jewish faith.
Right.
So he testified from that point of view. And then Gary Daniels from the ACLU, their senior lobbyist, testified on a lot of the privacy concerns and ridiculousness of the bill. And he actually, in my favorite line of his testimony, talked about how, the sponsors of the bill say they didn't want all these things to happen, but then obviously they either are lying to us about what their intents were, or they had no idea what they were doing. And Rep. Gonzalez the chair of the committee, did not like that at all whatsoever. So Gary got a 3-minute lecture on how dare you accuse us of not knowing what we are doing here. We've been working on this bill for 5 months. We've had interested party meetings.
Oh, their interested party testimony.
Not testimony, actually meetings. Like they were saying that they had brought everybody together to talk about the bills. Well, I've never been invited. Planned Parenthood's never been invited. The ACLU's never been invited. The definition of an interested parties meeting is you bring everybody into the room to discuss the bill, not just, we'll bring in the people that agree with us.
Right.
And obviously they haven't brought in waste management companies because the stuff in the bill is completely impossible. They're saying, well, the bills allow for incineration now, but each fetal tissue specimen has to be incinerated individually, which, if even possible, which we're not sure of, would be completely impractical and cost prohibitive. So obviously they haven't talked to any medical waste provider or anything like that.
Right.
So
which you'd
obviously
think they would be able to do, because the state of Ohio hires medical waste providers after women have miscarriages in prisons.
Yes.
The Department of Corrections uses the exact same methods and the same companies
that Planned Parenthood used to use. Well, all of our providers used to use, but now don't anymore because they've all been dumped by them.
So they need to have this conversation in-house first. It's not, let's talk about interested parties and go outside our system. Yeah. The representatives for the state of Ohio need to be talking to the administrators for the state of Ohio to figure out what they want to do with their fetal remains.
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing with this bill, is that it has absolutely nothing about disposal of fetal remains. Like, it really isn't about disposal of fetal remains, because if you actually cared about fetal remains being disposed of in a thoughtful and careful manner, you would include all fetal remains.
Right.
But these bills are only fetal remains from abortion. They don't include miscarriage. So miscarriage remains could still be disposed of however the hell you want to.
As if there's some sort of difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Rep. Gonzalez gets that's what she said this week, because the walk of shame this week, because that's just her little temper tantrum at Gary Daniels was completely uncalled for, because they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Absolutely don't know what they're doing.
Right. And I think the biggest sign of them, not knowing what's going on was, before the hearing was previous reporting by 10 TV. The reporter there, Nathan Baca, did a big story that we've talked about previously, where he asked, the attorney general, after having done this study, well, what about this? What about that? Do you know about these procedures?
Yeah.
And it was very clear that even though all of these allegations were raised initially that started off all this legislation, the attorney general did not have a solid understanding of what was going on. Legislators do not have a solid understanding of, what has been done in the past, what is appropriate, what are the industry standards for healthcare providers everywhere, for hospitals.
Yeah.
What are the privacy implications of all of these bills?
But it just proves they don't care. And it proves the point that I made in my testimony, and over and over and over again. It doesn't matter what words are on the page of the testimony.
Right.
The aim of the bill is to shut down abortion providers.
Right.
However they can. So if they don't know and they put completely impractical things in the bill, that shuts abortion clinics down faster. And that's what they really want to do.
Right. So we'll see where these bills go. Both, as you said, have passed out of committee. So either one would be eligible for a floor vote in front of the full House. They're going to have some conversations about which one to pass, because they're going to look damn silly if they try and do both. So it kind of looked to me like the committee just wanted to get these things off their plates, and they passed them along. They passed the buck. So somebody else is going to have to figure out, oh, wait a minute, this is actually going to impact real parts of the healthcare industry, that conversation will happen at a later date and time.
Yeah,
maybe.
It's possible.
All right. So that was the Walk of Shame. Who gets the That's What She Said Award of the Week?
We're going to give that one to Hillary
Yay.
for her performance in the Democratic debate last night. We've now gone through 9 Democratic debates.
It feels like 90.
and at no point in time, even in the MSNBC liberal biased media debates,
right,
at no point did anyone ever ask a question about women having the rights to make their own reproductive health care decisions.
Right. Even Rachel Maddow did not ask
exactly.
that. And last night on CNN, Wolf Blitzer sure as hell did not come to use the term abortion.
Yeah. So Hillary gets our That's What She Said, and I think you've got the actual quote.
Yes. So towards the end of the debate, Hillary called out the debate moderators. She said that reproductive freedom goes to the heart of who we are as women, our rights, our autonomy, our ability to make our own decisions. We need to be talking about that. So, she said, she put it out there that there's a whole set of issues about healthcare, about specifically women's healthcare, reproductive rights, access to abortion, that has been absent from all of the presidential debates.
And it's a critical piece of things.
Discussion. Yeah.
Because, Bernie Sanders' whole platform is single-payer healthcare that's set up individually in every single state. Listeners, think about that for a second. John Kasich creating the single-payer system for Ohio. What do you think that would look like? It would definitely not include abortion.
Right.
It probably wouldn't include birth control.
Probably not.
So
you'd have political appointee Richard Hodges with almost no healthcare experience choosing your healthcare. Yeah.
So, this is something that by not talking about really, has been a major issue for this campaign and has really, really been missing. So I'm glad she brought it up, and hopefully we can continue to talk about, the real world impact of ignoring these issues.
Right. Yeah. You've got Bernie's proposals, which, do deserve discussion.
I love single payer, but John Kasich shouldn't be the one setting that shit up. Right.
If we don't go down that road, then we've got the continuing implementation of Obamacare.
Yeah.
There's a Supreme Court case right now that's debating whether or not contraception should be included in that. That's a subject that I haven't heard discussed in any of these debates. You've got the continuing crime against women of the Hyde Amendment that refuses to pay for abortions with tax dollars, even to low-income women that absolutely need assistance, that cannot afford to have children due to unintended pregnancies. None of this has been a topic. All of the president should be able to weigh in on state legislation when it becomes a national wave, as it has over the past few years. These are questions that we need to hear from these candidates, and to have had this many debates go on and this question not to be raised at any point in time.
Yeah,
it's not right.
No. So it's glad that it finally came up, even if she had to force the issue last night. So.
Yes. And so then also this week there was Equal Pay Day.
At least Equal Pay Day for white women.
And I think there's a growing acknowledgement. I'm seeing more and more often.
Because the whole point of it being that day is that it's how many more days into the next year a woman has to work in order to make the same amount of money that a man made in 2015. So
is that why they hold it that day? Oh.
So
I didn't know that.
So that's why it's Equal Pay Day for white women.
Okay.
I should have looked up the dates, but I think it's like into July or something like that for an African American
so Equal
woman.
Pay Day for Latinas is going to be like in 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. So on average, that's how much longer a white woman has to work into the next year to make the same amount that her counterpart made in 2015.
Right.
So it's almost tax day. It's kind of funny how almost they coincide.
Right. So for white women, it's
77, I think.
Yeah. And for black women, I think it's like, Randy knew these numbers right off the top of her head. Randy's sick today, by the way. For black women, it was like 66 cents to the dollar. And for Latinas, it was like 56 cents to the dollar, plus or minus 3 cents. Don't hold me to that. But then, on the topic of equal pay, I also saw somebody point out that the figures for black women and Latinas, so many cents to the dollar is so many cents to the dollar of what white men make.
Mm-hmm.
And that discussion added in the other layer that you have a pay gap for Black men. You have a pay gap for Latinos.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, this isn't you know, just a, you know, men get this, women get this.
Yeah.
There's an entire range of disparity across multiple demographics of, you know, who gets paid what for basically doing the same work. And I thought that was a really interesting discussion. You know, and it wasn't presented in any way to side rail the discussion about gender-based pay equality. But it really kind of made me go, oh, wait a minute. There's many angles to this.
Well, yeah. And I mean, you look at unemployment, you look at incarceration. I mean, this is where you really start getting into how all of these issues are so intersectional, and the fact that, you know, the unemployment rate for African-American, especially African-American young men, is off the charts. I mean, we keep hearing John Kasich out there talking about his Ohio miracle and how he's taken Ohio's unemployment rate down to like 7% or 6% or something like that, and how wonderful and great that is, because, you know, the Democrats ran the economy into the ground, which of course is not true, but whatever. Spin it however you want. But, you know, what we ignore in that fact is that for young African-American men, I think it's still somewhere to like about 25-26% unemployment rate. And then you connect that into, well, then what do you do when you're incarcerated? You've got to find money to take care of your family. You do things that are illegal. It ends you up in jail. Brings us into our mass incarceration problem and our privatized prisons problem and all of those kinds of things. So
everything ties together.
Yeah, it also ties together in the fact that, you know, we really need to look at these, you know, on a systematic way and stop just looking at them from these kind of pitch and hold.
They should put together some kind of committee to advance community and family issues. Oh wait,
they're busy doing nonsense, stupid shit.
So NARAL, both at the national level and NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio, is very proud to participate in Equal Pay Day to raise continuing awareness and call for new policies across the board that will improve you know, rates of pay for many many groups within society. So,
did we talk about women's soccer, or was that the week we missed? We should totally give a shout out for Equal Pay Day for the women's soccer team.
Yeah, we've discussed women's soccer before, but that was one of the, I think that has become one of the clear-cut examples that a lot of people have seen.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is that, you know, they all play 20 what they call friendlies, or basically like they don't qualify for FIFA or the Olympics or any of those kinds of things.
They're kind of just regular season national team games.
Yeah. And so they're both required, both the men's team and the women's team are supposed to do 20 a year. If the women do 21, they get paid no more. If the men do 21, they get an extra like $5,000 or something like that. So number one. Number two, the women, if they win all 20 games, are guaranteed less money than the men losing all 20 games.
Weird.
And that's probably actually because the women's team rocks and the men's team kind of sucks most of the time.
So they are much more likely to win all their games.
Yeah, exactly.
Men
winning all games. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we're looking, and usually what they come back with when you talk about like WNBA team, you know, players versus NBA players, is that the NBA brings in crap ton more money than the WNBA, and so you can kind of understand some of the pay disparities there. But the U.S. women's soccer team like brought in $17 million into the U.S. Soccer Federation last year.
Right. No, I totally believe that.
So, you know, they bring in more money and they still get paid less.
Yeah.
And they play on crappy fields where we cause injuries, and the men always get to play on grass, real grass, everywhere they go, even if they install it for them for that one game. The women get to play on artificial turf that in one game in Hawaii, they actually canceled it because it was pulling up and like almost injured a player.
Right.
So, I mean, these are the disparities between the two. So yeah, they actually sued the U.S. Soccer Federation through the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission, on a pay disparity case. So we'll see where that goes, but we'll give them a shout out for Equal Pay Day and that fabulous lawsuit, because they deserve to be treated the same way.
Yeah. And there was a lot of discussion about them on the day. because it is such a really clear-cut, easy to understand example of how unjust this is. And they were even talking about it on another podcast I listened to. It's one of the ESPN. It's pardon the interruption. And I think they had a great take on it. They were talking about the salaries for both of these teams.
Oh yeah.
But then the other angle, which really got into more of the sports industry, that you and I don't really think about that often, is they were discussing, okay, so these teams travel.
Oh yeah, the per diem. Yeah, that was ridiculous.
They get completely unequal travel accommodations. They stay in different hotels. They get, the women get less money per day to travel.
75 for the men, 60 for the women.
Yeah, as if somehow women get cheaper taxi cabs and cheaper meals at restaurants. That's not the case. I mean, they're staying in the same hotels, they're eating in the same restaurants. Travel everywhere is expensive for everyone.
Yeah.
And the men get more money and get to stay in fancier places. So that was like a whole other layer, and that totally adds up.
Oh yeah.
So it's not just in salary, it's not just in game bonuses. It's across the board, every aspect of being a member of the U.S. women's soccer team. You get, cheated versus what the men are getting. Yeah.
I mean, they're really going on this whole, well, the men should get paid and the women just should be happy we have a U.S. women's soccer team and you get to still play soccer.
And that's totally not the case because they're the ones driving the sport in this country.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was Equal Pay Day. Moving on our agenda, yesterday, Annie Kroll, our field organizer, was up in Toledo doing the thing she seems to love to do the most, which is try and get ProMedica to sign a transfer agreement.
So the clinic in Toledo is, as we discussed before, is in court trying to stay open because for the simple reason that ProMedica, the hospital, the only hospital in Toledo who can enter into a transfer agreement, refuses to enter into a transfer agreement.
Right. The clinic there is Capital Care.
Yes. So they've been doing a lot of protests and those kinds of things. And a couple weeks ago, we found out that although ProMedica did a secret indoor groundbreaking a couple of months ago to start this new inner city hospital that they're building for a variety of reasons. We may have been like 1% of that reason. The other 99% was that basically they've demolished an entire neighborhood in the inner city of Toledo that nobody really likes them for right now. So for a variety of reasons, they decided to do this super secret indoor groundbreaking for their new hospital. And I guess they decided that maybe they should do a bigger one. So they did another groundbreaking ceremony thing for this new hospital yesterday. So Annie and the Keep Abortion Safe and Legal people up in Toledo did a silent protest with tape across the mouth and signs and everything out there yesterday.
Yeah, it looks great. We put pictures of that up on our Twitter feed and Facebook. So check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/prochoiceoh. To see some of those pictures and pictures from Advocacy Day.
Yeah, and if you're interested in getting involved with the Keep Abortion Safe and Legal in Toledo folks, just find them on Facebook. They have a Facebook page, Keep Abortion Safe and Legal in Toledo, and you'll see all the events and those kinds of things coming up.
Yes. So that is continuing to happen. Another project, I think we mentioned it last week. We had folks sign up for it at Advocacy Day. It's our new microphone project. We're going to be bringing on amplifiers. These are volunteers around the state of Ohio who feel really strongly about reproductive rights and abortion access to get some training, get some talking points, to learn how to discuss these issues, especially with their local newspapers, their talk radio, local TV stations, to make sure that the message of NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio and the movement gets into a bigger audience. If you would like to join that, it's going to be really easy. We're going to provide training to everybody. You can email me, communications@prochoiceohio.org, or check out our website. There's more information there about all of the work that we're doing. prochoiceohio.org.
Cool.
So.
I'm going to go off script for a second because I forgot. Also upcoming, really, really important on this Saturday is the Women Have Options Bowl-a-thon.
Yes.
And if you've missed it, actually, NNAF, the National Network of Abortion Funds, so the national group that kind of helps the groups like Women Have Options, their website got hacked and the entire Bowl-a-thon system went down. And actually the anti-choice group that hacked it sent a blast email, a ridiculously stupid blast email out to all the registered bowlers. So it actually isn't going to come back up online because they need to protect the privacy of their bowlers and everything else. So if you still want to donate to the Women Have Options Bowl-a-thon, they still desperately, I mean, this is their biggest fundraiser. So to have that system go down is a huge issue. Right. Please go to the Women Have Options website, and there is a PayPal link to donate on their website. And if you want to donate in name of a specific bowler, just write in the dedication line who that bowler is, and it'll go towards that bowler's total. So if you still want to donate to the Women Have Options one this weekend, you can do that way. And then also Preterm has their own like internal abortion fund, and theirs I think is coming up in a couple of weeks. So you can go to the Preterm website and donate directly to Preterm that way as well. They really need to, keep the donations coming, even though that website is not going to be functional.
Right. And thank you to everybody who did participate in that. I did it last year. A lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I was bowling in a Statue of Liberty costume.
It was pretty fabulous. The pictures were amazing. We might have to dig one of those up for the show notes.
Yeah. So do the bowl-a-thon this year. If you've signed up, it's tomorrow. So, know, if you haven't, you're probably too late. But thanks for everybody who did that. And then the rest of the spring, we've got a lot of great events all across the state of Ohio. The one that I love the most is our FOCO, our coalition. Again, we have a booth at the Columbus Community Festival, which is ComFest. It's a big hippy dippy, lots of bands in the park, giant mugs of beer and hanging out. It's our best pro-choice crowd that we get to talk to every year, collect a lot of petitions. We're going to need volunteers to staff that booth. It's like the easiest volunteering you've ever done. Shoes are optional. It's that level of comfortable. So check out our website or our Facebook page over the next couple weeks. We'll be putting out calls for volunteers. And then there's Pride festivals all across the state of Ohio that NARAL is proud to participate in.
Yeah, so in June, Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, and Cleveland. And then Youngstown, I think, goes in July at some point because they don't like to double up on weekends.
Right.
And then Toledo, for some reason, likes to do theirs like in late August or something like that. So, yeah, keep an eye out on the calendar, and we'll start getting volunteer recruitments going on those.
Right. Some of those festivals, we march in parades. Some of them we have booths. Some of them we do both. But all of them are a lot of fun. So,
yay for summer festival season.
Okay. So I think that's a wrap on next week. Hopefully we'll have Randy and all three of us back next week.
We keep promising that.
Yeah. All right. We'll see everybody then.
Bye.
Bye.